We've all had those, persistent, baffling headaches, right? Or maybe a sudden flare-up of inflammation that just seems to come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But what if the root cause wasn't, well, just about our immediate environment? What if it reached all the way out to unusual activity on our sun?
Ah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into sources exploring exactly that, this surprising kind of cosmic connection. It reveals how these mysterious solar phenomena might be impacting us directly, right down to our physiology.
Exactly. And that's our mission here, really. We want to unpack a series of these, well, let's say rather unconventional observations of the sun.
Okay.
Then we'll look at a truly fascinating, if maybe unconventional, cosmic explanation for them.
Right.
And perhaps the most surprising part, how these huge cosmic events are said to impact us directly. We'll even get into some practical, tangible remedies for some of those very real aches and pains.
Practical remedies coming from space phenomena.
And
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to distill some pretty complex ideas, into clear, actionable insights for you.
All right, so our journey starts by looking at the sun itself, peeling back the layers on this unusual solar behavior.
Hmm.
Forget what you thought you knew, maybe. These observations, they paint a picture of phenomena so peculiar, they kind of defy conventional understanding. They hint at unseen forces.
Okay, so where do we start?
First off, the sources describe a distinct flashing, that's what they call it, seen in the sun's corona, the outer atmosphere.
Right, you see that on the coronagraphs.
Exactly, the coronagraphs that block out the main disk.
Right.
And this isn't just a little flicker, it's interpreted as signifying intense radiation.
Okay, radiation.
And what's really striking is that technicians weren't just seeing this, they were actively measuring it, recording it as if it were a coronal mass ejection, a CME.
Wow, okay, measuring it like a CME, that's significant.
Yeah. And the interpretation, according to these sources, they believe these flashes are, and I'm quoting here, bursts of particle collision causing fission-like reaction or cascades.
Fission, like particle splitting.
That seems to be the idea. A fundamental shift, maybe, in how we view solar activity.
And what's really remarkable here, as these observations suggest, is maybe a deeper change in the sun itself. When you look at the helium signature.
What's that telling us?
Well, it indicates the presence and behavior of helium in the sun's atmosphere, and they're noting distortions at what's described as the 1.00 position on the sun.
1 o'clock.
Huh. And this is coupled with a, quote, nice glowing corona that's brighter than usual, which suggests more helium than expected.
More helium, brighter corona.
Right. But the challenge, though, is missing data. There's a critical instrument, a spectrograph. And without that historical data from it, it's incredibly hard to compare what's happening now to previous solar minimums, like back in 2009, 2010, 2011.
Got it. So we can't easily see if this is really different from before.
Exactly. So you have this situation where the sun's basic radiance and the number of sunspots are dropping, which you'd expect in a minimum.
Yeah, quieter sun.
But at the same time, the corona is emitting incredible radiation and extreme ultraviolet light. It's kind of contradictory.
It really is. And the observations just keep getting stranger, especially when we look at the mechanical side of things on the sun.
Okay, like what?
Well, on the bottom of the sun, you'd usually expect to see sunspots, right? The places where solar flares come from.
Typically, yeah.
But in these observations, they're just absent, not there.
No sunspots down there.
But they are seeing something else, a prominence filament. One of those big bright loops. It's at the edge of the southern coronal hole stream. That's where the solar wind escapes. And this filament is described as vortexing sideways.
Vortexing, like a whirlpool,
Yeah.
sideways.
They call it a very, very rare phenomenon, and it's apparently really clear when you look at specific UV wavelengths, like 17 nanometers, stuff you can't see normally.
Okay, and what does that vortexing do?
Well, it's said to create energies, magnetics, waves of particles getting slung in different directions. There's rapid movement of plasma along the surface, too.
Wow, a lot of activity, just different activity.
Totally. And plus, there are these things called pinpoint emissions, tiny bright spots, and they're more numerous in certain parts of the sun. The suggestion is that Earth has passed into a downstream ionized focusing cone.
A focusing cone, like a beam.
Basically, yeah. A concentrated stream of charged particles flowing out from the sun.
Okay, so we've got flashing, weird helium, a sideways vortex, pinpoint emissions. If we connect all these intriguing solar observations to the bigger picture the sources are painting, what's the immediate human impact they point to?
Headaches.
Headaches.
Yeah, the sources say that following these specific solar observations, people started complaining. widespread headaches and exacerbation of their inflammatory diseases and inflammatory conditions.
Wow. So a direct, immediate link is what's being suggested.
That seems to be the claim. A surprising correlation, for sure. It definitely warrants a closer look.
Okay, so how did these far-off solar oddities connect to something as personal, as physical, as a headache? What's the theory?
Right. So the underlying cosmic theory they put forward focuses on that flattened southern coronal hole stream we mentioned.
The one that's sort of blown back up towards the equator?
Exactly. Instead of just streaming out like, water from a faucet.
Hmm.
The interpretation is that this is caused by wind from underneath the sun.
Wind from underneath the sun.
That's the term used.
Oh.
And the source of this wind, the sources introduced the concept of a brown dwarf.
A brown dwarf. Okay.
Yeah. And it's hypothesized that this brown dwarf has, quote, reached its maximum declination or approaching maximum declination, meaning it's getting near its lowest point relative to the sun's equator.
Okay, that is quite a theory. A brown dwarf influencing our sun. For anyone listening, a brown dwarf is sort of like a failed star, right? Bigger than a planet, but not big enough to ignite fusion like our sun.
But still, potentially massive influence, gravitationally, energetically.
Exactly. And the sources describe its influence on the sun's dynamics by observing this shifting focusing cone in white light. Apparently, it used to be seen on the left side of the sun, but now it's off to the right.
What does that shift indicate?
Well, it suggests a clear shift from inflow to outflow, or that we're now in the downwind portion of this ionized stream coming from that interaction.
Okay, so the flow dynamics are changing because of this external object's position.
That's the idea. Think of it like maybe light from two different flashlights crossing paths creates a brighter, more intense area. The sources suggest something similar is happening with what they call overlapping focusing cones. This leads to helium being sprayed across the face of the sun from more than one radiant point.
Sprayed across the sun.
Yeah, creating this unique glowing disk appearance, sometimes with a V shape.
Okay. And how does that connect back?
Well, this also correlates with faster coronal hole streams and an increase in geomagnetic storms, those disturbances in Earth's magnetic field.
Ah. And geomagnetic storms are sometimes linked to things like headaches.
Precisely. And these sources say the timing aligns with the massive headaches reoccurring that people are reporting.
So if I'm getting this right, these sources are suggesting a direct, almost immediate physical response here on Earth tied to these huge cosmic shifts involving a hypothetical brown dwarf.
That's exactly what they're proposing. Furthermore, they talk about light anomalies. These are supposedly created by helium and electrons releasing white light.
Okay.
And with two hypothesized sources of helium, the sun itself and perhaps this interacting object, you'd get potentially two different orientations of waves of particles and white light. The sources even suggest this might be visible to the naked eye sometimes.
Wow. Visible light anomalies from this interaction.
That's the claim. We've also apparently observed what's called a compression event in some data, where the outside of the frames looks compressed. They link this to Earth previously being downstream of the known focusing cone.
Okay, so where is this hypothetical brown dwarf supposed to be now? What's its trajectory?
Well, the speculation suggests it's now passing almost on the other side of the sun, meaning we're nearly opposite to it in our orbit.
Opposite the sun from it. Where specifically?
Its purported location is given as between Saturn and Jupiter underneath both of those planets, specifically 3 AU south of Jupiter.
3 AU, so 3 times the Earth-Sun distance south of Jupiter's orbital plane. That's way out there.
It is, and the predicted consequences are pretty dramatic. Earthquakes should be starting, they say.
Earthquakes.
Yeah. And then when it supposedly begins its climb, adhering to Carrington's model that's related to understanding big solar events, you should expect fireworks followed by bombardments. Very intense, but maybe short-lived.
Fireworks and bombardments. That sounds ominous.
It does, and that flashing we discussed earlier gets reiterated here as a cascade of particle interaction and collision.
Right, the fission-like cascade.
Exactly. Creating light flashes, then followed by a cavity of consumed particles as they split and annihilate. This leads to a collapse and then reignition. And this flashing pattern is attributed to our current orientation relative to this supposed external helium source.
Okay, wow. We've really delved into some puzzling solar observations and this incredible theory of a brown dwarf influencing our sun. But what does this grand cosmic drama actually mean for something as personal, as real as a headache?
Right. This is where the sources take that really unexpected turn into practical, tangible advice for mitigation.
Yeah, it's quite a shift. So whether or not you fully buy into the cosmic explanation of these theories are certainly
They
extraordinary.
definitely are.
The sources highlight a very real personal experience, those extreme crushing headaches and those inflammatory conditions. And surprisingly, despite the massive scale of these theories, they offer incredibly practical advice. So let's dive into those remedies. The first tip for those headaches, and they emphasize it's an inflammatory response, is to insulate your headboard and your bedroom windows
Insulate them. With what?
with a reflective barrier that comes in rolls that looks like aluminum foil on bubble wrap. You know that stuff.
Oh, yeah, the reflective insulation. Okay. So block potential incoming radiation or fields, maybe?
That seems to be the implication, shielding yourself.
It's compelling, yeah, how practical the advice gets after these grand theories. So beyond insulation, what else? For immediate headache relief.
Ice. Aggressive ice application.
Okay, tell me more.
Use a gallon or even a half-gallon Ziploc bag of ice directly on your face until the skin almost cramps up.
Wow, directly on the face. That's intense.
Yeah. Then move it to the back of the neck, then the side of the head. The sources claim relief can come really fast, like within 5 or 10 minutes.
5 or 10 minutes from that kind of icing. Okay, what about other inflammation, like nasal passages, especially when lying down?
Yeah, they address that too. The advice is to get an empty saline nasal spray bottle, like an ocean spray bottle or similar. But first, dump out the original contents.
Dump it out. Why?
They mention concerns about preservatives, specifically benzalkonium chloridibenzoid. The sources suggest these can be irritating or counterproductive if you're trying to reduce inflammation.
Ah, okay, so avoid the standard preservatives. Then what?
Then you refill the bottle with pure, normal, sterile saline, just plain saline.
Got it.
Then you can add 1 or 2 drops of colloidal silver to that saline.
Colloidal silver, what's the thinking there?
It's suggested to help with slow-growing Enterobacter or bacterium, and also potentially viruses in the nasal passages.
Okay, saline plus a drop or two of colloidal silver. Anything else?
Yes, and this one comes with a big caution. There's a suggestion to add 3 or 4 drops of Afrin to this diluted saline solution.
Afrin. But isn't that the stuff that can cause rebound congestion?
Exactly. They stress it. Do not use Afrin directly. It's too strong, can cause that rebound effect where you get more stuffed up later, and it can be addictive.
Right, I've heard that.
But this very diluted solution, just a few drops in the whole saline bottle, is said to provide just enough relief after maybe 20 minutes or so. And apparently, you can use this super diluted mix all day long and during the night without the harsh effects of using Afrin straight.
Okay, so very, very dilute Afrin as a potential helper. That's interesting. And needs caution.
Definitely needs caution. They also recommend just flushing the nose well in the shower.
Makes sense. Simple flushing.
And one more thing related to headaches. Spinal cord inflammation.
How does that connect?
Well, it's mentioned as another potential contributor to headaches. And they suggest an inflatable traction neck collar can help. You know, the ones that gently stretch your neck.
Ah, right, for neck inflammation or compressed vertebrae.
Exactly. Might help relieve pressure contributing to the headache.
Okay, so reflective barriers, intense icing, careful nasal rinsing with specific additions, and even neck traction. Quite a range of practical advice stemming from these cosmic observations.
It really is. So we've gone from these puzzling solar observations, the flashing coronas, the vortexing filaments, all the way to the extraordinary theory of a brown dwarf influencing our sun. And then maybe most surprisingly landed on these incredibly practical tips for dealing with headaches and inflammatory conditions that might be linked.
Yeah.
This deep dive has certainly revealed an extraordinary perspective on the sun, on a hypothesized celestial body, and their unexpected yet very personal impacts on Earth and our health.
What really stands out here, I think, is how these incredibly far-reaching cosmic observations are being presented as directly relevant to our everyday physical experience.
Yeah.
It really urges us to consider influences far beyond, our immediate environment. It's a remarkable connection that's being drawn.
So the question for you listening is, what does this all mean for your understanding of health? And the vast, unseen forces that might be at play right here in our very own solar system.
It's definitely something to think about.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and as our sources would probably say, be prepared, not scared.